scientist, you don't have to have the exact same contextual factors.
You don't have to be.
comparisons.
Sorry, Mark. I'm sorry. You don't have to be a trained social
scientist. For example,
scientist.
it were a school bus instead of a subway, it wouldn't make it less important. If you were an Army vet instead of a Marine vet, it wouldn't make it less relevant. It's a silly question to ask me. When was the last time we were a Marine vet on a subway? Blah 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 blah. That's not the point.
Okay, so
my point is,
right,
I never made it about race.
But I also think, like Mark Lamont Hill, like everybody else, oh, it was just racism. It's just racism. No. There was a different argument you could have made with this. And so this is why it's easy. He says you don't have to be a social scientist to see that there's no evidence to prove that Daniel Penny is a racist. Exactly. That's why you don't make these arguments. You don't waste time with these emotional arguments because you can't prove that point. It's too subjective to say that someone is racist.
I also say damage to his reputation if he chooses to remain in New York City. If he comes to a great red state like the one I'm in right now, Tennessee or Texas or many other great states around this country, he'll be treated like the hero that he is. There's a lot I have to say on this, Piers, but I'd also say for those BLM grifters who are now coming out threatening to burn down the city, making this all about their race-baiting grift, how dare you and shame on you. You did not care about Jordan Neely.
Okay, let's everybody calm down for a second. Now, this clip is definitely, it is about, you know, the situation that happened with the Jordan Neely, Daniel Penny case. Now, I will tell you what I think about the verdict when, towards the end. Clickbait, right? No, so you guys can hang out and watch. No, let's get through the clip. I won't, take too long, and I'm going to tell you what I think.
When he was a homeless man living on the streets, struggling with mental health problems and possibly a drug addiction, you didn't care about him then. You probably stepped over him on your way elsewhere. But now all of a sudden, when you can use his name and you can use his death to fundraise for BLM or to get out your pent up aggression or to claim racism, now all of a sudden you care about someone like Jordan Neely. It's all too rich for me, Piers. Expect to see New York City once again descend into mayhem and chaos because...
Okay, calm down. It's not going to descend into mayhem and chaos, so she is right about BLM grifters using his name. We have one here, Mark Lamont Hill. So she really is trashing Mark Lamont Hill, and she should. He should be dragged every day. This guy's a weirdo. He's been a weirdo since the day he said that men can have babies. So I have absolutely no patience or tolerance for him. So there's no moment I can even deal with him on... when he talks, he's just the worst, okay? Absolute worst. But this is what we have here. Guys, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you to every eye that lands on these videos. Let's get back into it.
Because BLM needs attention. The pro-terrorist, anti-Semites, anti-Israel protesters have been taking all the wind out of their sails, getting all the attention. So now they want to be back in the headlines. But I don't think they're going to be met with the same sentiment that they had with George Floyd in 2020. People are sick and tired of this, and people know that Daniel Penny was a hero, is a hero, and should be treated like one.
Well, that's how I feel. A lot of people don't. Hawk Newsom, the founder of BLM in New York, has said that anyone who thinks Penny is innocent has racism in their heart before saying the KKK got another victory. Hypocrisy. Now, I want to play, before I go to you, Mark, I want to play, this is a clip of Jordan Neely's father talking about his reaction to the verdict.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we going to do, people? What's going to happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged.
Now, Mark, I'm sorry.
Before Mark says anything, I'm sorry, man. This is why I can't even deal. This is why people would call me a self-hating black woman. I don't care. This, man, miss me with all that. Oh, what are we going to do now? System is rigged. And, oh, this hurts. And I'm tired. Man, please, okay? I can't tell you how many brothers are in the street killing each other and killing other people and then still getting out. And they have priors and they still going in jail and they coming back out, hurting people, everything else. Stop it, okay? We could do this both ways. Why was your son out there acting a fool? Come on. All right. Let me calm down. He has every right to feel some type of way because he's hurting, because he's lost his son. But it's don't throw that guilt on me. That's how I feel. You know what it is? Because everybody does this. That's the problem. So it's it ends up where I don't want to disrespect the father because he is his father, but I'm just so tired of it, man. I really am.
What are we going to do, people? What's going to happen to us now?
Everybody gonna go to work in the morning just fine right on that train station and forget about Jordan Neely.
I had enough of this. The system is rigged.
Now, Mark, I'm sorry. Listen, I've got a lot of feeling for any father whose son dies in those circumstances. But the idea the system has been rigged over this, the idea that this guy, Jordan Neely, clearly mentally unwell, homeless, and potentially violent, nobody knew his propensity for violence. All they knew was he was acting in a very threatening way and threatening to kill people. And you have a guy who's from the military, who knows how to disarm people, who did exactly what he was trained to do. And then an accident occurred, and it's incredibly unfortunate. But he did not want to let this guy go in case he got up and carried out his threat. Are you really going to try and argue? I don't know if you are. I'm just pointing a question to you, really. But is this really the way it's being framed, as a victory for the KKK? That if you don't think this guy is guilty, you've got racism in your heart?
I don't think that that's the dominant position from people like myself who are critical of what happened and who are disappointed in the outcome of the trial. I think it's too simplistic to say that anybody who disagrees with me is a member of the KKK or has beliefs like the KKK. I think that becomes almost like a straw man argument. I think there are a few things that we need to talk about with regard to framing. The first thing is, as you pointed out, Piers, this man is mentally unwell. This person was struggling with mental illness. That's very different than the initial introduction to this segment that you gave, where you said he was a deranged lunatic. And as you repeated multiple times, deranged lunatic, it would communicate to the audience and to everyday people everywhere that the only way to stop this person from, destroying the subway and killing everybody was to put him in a 6-minute chokehold.
But he was behaving like a deranged lunatic. Sorry, Mark, he was. I mean, it's indisputable. Nobody knew at the time what his mental health status was. All they knew was he was behaving. He was behaving in a lunatic manner, threatening and potentially dangerous. Nobody knew if he was armed. Nobody knew what he might do. People were terrified. So I'm afraid, for all intents and purposes, the guy was behaving like a deranged lunatic. It turns out, after the event, we discover he has mental illness. But let's not pretend that in the moment he wasn't acting like a deranged lunatic, because he was.
I wasn't. I wasn't saying that. You interrupted before I could finish the thought. You would understand I wasn't saying that. What I'm saying is that someone with a mental illness may or may not be violent. Most people with mental illnesses in public space, according to all the evidence, all the data, are not violent threats.
Yeah, but the ones who start acting up, they can be violent, and they can be extremely violent. And if you've ever seen it in your face, it is something like, bro, like it is something for the books, man. Like seriously, the strength that they have when they get violent like that. So I've seen people like literally pick people up and toss them. Like it is absolutely insane. Okay.
You don't have to have the exact same contextual factors.
You don't have to be.
Sorry,
Mark. I'm sorry. You don't have to be a trained social scientist. For example,
it were a school bus instead of a subway, it wouldn't make it less important. If he were an Army vet instead of a Marine vet, it wouldn't make it less relevant. It's a silly question to ask me. When was the last time where a Marine vet on a subway? Blah 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 blah. That's not the point.
Okay, so
my point is,
right,
I never made it about race.
Hang on.
I never made it about race.
Hang on. So far, you've called me dumb, silly. And you say you're...
I didn't call you dumb.
What kind of scientist are you?
I didn't call you dumb.
What scientist are you?
Time out. You're not listening. I think you're very smart. I think you're making an argument that will only be persuasive to people who are not as smart as you. I never said you were dumb.
Well, let me respond to that.
When you rewind this, you'll see I never called you dumb. Yeah. I said you were being sarcastic.
You don't need to be...
With respect, Mark, I think you're being snarky with the question.
You don't need to be
So again...
With respect, you don't need to be a social scientist to know that there is zero evidence of any racial motivation for what Daniel Penny did. So people who are trying to infer it, that somehow, as the founder of BLM in New York says, if you think he's innocent, you're a racist, and the KKK just got another victory. I'm not a social scientist, but I know that's horseshit.
Right. Again, the statement from the BLM person in New York, I don't share, I don't echo, I don't agree with. You're asking me to defend a statement that I don't agree with. The statement that I am making, that you and I should be engaging, is the issue of implicit bias and the issue of use of
bias?
force. There is
What bias?
There is
Bias is saying racism, and so we could do this all day, right? So let me just, so that's not, this is why people lose, okay? This is why they lose. Now, number one, he's about to cry. Number two, it always goes back to that. So Piers has the right way. See, the difference with, all right, let's do this, right? Y'all ready to do it? Let's do it. The difference between white people and black people, myself included, is that white people don't jump to emotion just yet, and they analyze things a certain way. Black folk, we do kind of get emotional and we rush to decisions. It doesn't, that doesn't change anything, right? And a lot of us can come back and say, hey, wait a second, I might have looked at that wrong, right? And so we tend to make emotional arguments. And I wish there was more of a balance, because I do think that white people should get a little bit more emotional about certain things, like a little bit more angry especially when you're being attacked in the media and stuff like that. So I do think that you do need the spiciness. I do. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also think, like Mark Lamont Hill, like everybody else, oh, it's just racism. It's just racism. No, there was a different argument you could have made with this. And so this is why it's easy. He says you don't have to be a social scientist to see that there's no evidence to prove that Daniel Penny is a racist. Exactly. That's why you don't make these arguments. You don't waste time with these emotional arguments, because you can't prove that point. It's too subjective to say that someone is racist. I tend not to call people racist anymore. I might say that look like a racist action. I mean, obviously if somebody's like a blatant, like that's different. But it's a pointless argument, and people are still having it. Now, here's my conclusion for what I think about this case. Now, yes, the guy was acting like a lunatic and everybody was scared. Everybody on that train said they were scared. And when he asked him, have you been on a subway? When I've been to New York not too long ago. When I walked down the street, it's a bit much. It's like they let out all these like mental health people and they let them go to the projects or something. I don't know what's going on. They're giving them free room and board at the hotels. It's bad. It is. And me as a psych nurse, my senses are definitely heightened, because when they start getting belligerent, if you don't have a team with you to take them down, you might have a problem, right? And so there we go with the takedown. The minute I looked at the way Daniel Penny took down Jordan Neely, I said this was a bad takedown, because he put him in a chokehold for 6 minutes. That's the thing. I don't care about, he did it because he was a racist. Actually, no, if anything, he did it because he has that hero tendency in him more than likely. That's not a bad thing. He was in the army and everything. He's just doing what he knows how to do. The problem is he took them down and held them in a chokehold. And so it could be manslaughter. It could. This is not me saying he's a bad man. He probably didn't mean to do that, but somebody did die, right? And so it could be manslaughter. That's the thing. It was a mistake. That could be argued. Even with the Derek Chauvin case. I said manslaughter. But when they went for, I don't know why he's in jail for second-degree murder. Because he didn't wake up that morning and say, I'm going to go kill George Floyd. Those are the arguments. Well, anyway, they got that one, right? So, which when everybody was happy about that case, I wasn't like, I was more like the jury was, they were bullied and everything. I remember that. And that's not how this justice system is supposed to work. It's not supposed to be a communist country. Anywho, but the point is, at the end of the day, the point is that, somebody ended up dying off of something he did. It was unintentional. So technically he should be in for manslaughter. But he had a good lawyer, whatever, I don't know. And it worked out in his favor. But that's really not, the verdict. The fact is manslaughter is a real thing. I don't care about all that other stuff. Oh, this is racist. If you don't believe that he should be in jail, then you're a racist. No, I don't think that you're a racist if you don't believe he should be in jail. Because you might be one of those people who says, look, these people are crazy. They come on a train, and I don't feel like dealing with them. And I'm glad somebody did something. There were a lot of people saying that when it happened. Right? But the problem is, unfortunately, this is why being a Good Samaritan is like, you have to have a good lawyer, because then you get caught up in situations like this. He did have him in the chokehold for 6 minutes. There's just no way. You cannot, I've done takedowns. That was a bad takedown. That's how you argue it. But when you start lobbing insults at people, nobody's going to want to hear what you say. Nobody's going to want to hear what you say. You can't prove that people are racist. I wouldn't even waste my time. I wouldn't. It is what it is. But anyway, there's that. So And BLM can chill. Nobody's rioting, okay? Because they're going to come get every last one of them. Mark Lamont Hill is always emotional. I have no respect for this guy. He said that men can have babies. His mouth always looks weird. I'm really, I think he's into weird things. And I'll leave it there. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.